Well, hello, I'm Jerry McKee, and welcome to Prime Time. We've got a great show for you tonight. And if you ever wonder about your court systems or deeds or just about anything that's got to do with your paperwork, legally wise, well, we're going to be talking to the lady that handles all that, her and her office staff. And so you're really going to find out some interesting things and what all Melanie Lawson's clerk of court, what all she does and her staff does. And I was really surprised about all the things that you do just by a little short conversation we had, Melanie. And let me switch over, you can see her. And how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. A lot of folks don't realize what all goes through the clerk of court's office.
That they don't, and I was one of them. I was one of them being kind of a dumbfounded a little bit. What all you? Now let's go back 20-some years. And it goes by quickly. I know the 20-some years. Now you grew up. Did you grow up in Union or?
I did, in Buffalo, West Springs area.
Oh, okay. So your family grew up here, so you're really familiar. Now, when you finished school, did you go directly into the working at the courthouse, or?
No, I think I was 22. My son was 2, and I went to work part-time, 6-month position for Pearl Kirby.
Oh, okay. Now, is that at the courthouse, right?
Yes, in the clerk of court's office. Miss Pearl was the clerk at the time, and it was a temporary position.
Yeah.
And then in 1989, Sheriff Jolly hired me.
Okay. So how long did you work part-time?
6 months.
About 6 months, and I guess you got that in your blood then, didn't you?
I guess I did. I really enjoyed it, those few months.
Now, it's way different back then. What
yes,
did they have computers?
Paper, and now it's a lot of computer.
Right. Paper.
Technology.
So you had to learn a lot about computers as you grew into this position. Now, when Sheriff Jolly, when he hired you, you already had 6 months experience.
And in the clerk's office, yes.
Right.
But I went to work for him as a dispatcher, so that was a whole new ball game.
Wow. So you went to like 911?
No, it was back when the dispatching was under the sheriffs.
Oh, okay.
And then after I left, I worked there for about 3 years, and then Miss Miller had a position open in family court and child support. So she hired me.
Wow. So you just kind of been actually in the county field for a good long time before you started going into the clerk's office.
I was.
Now, when you went to the family court, you was the family court clerk, or was you just?
I was just a child support clerk. And then in 1997, was given the position of family court coordinator and / deputy clerk at the time.
Now, when you were a child support clerk, I bet you've seen some people come in that just was really kind of angry at you.
Well, they get angry, but it's not our fault.
Right,
right. If you fail to pay and we have to issue rules to show cause or bench warrants for failing to appear or pay as ordered,
right.
It's not our fault. And you try to talk to them and get them to an understanding, you know, that's on you, not us, but we get blamed for a lot.
Right. Well, I know that just like the DMV and stuff, family court has to be, anytime you're dealing with a court, it has to be, because I've been in there and saw a lot of, you see a lot of stuff, I know, and especially in family court, it's really, to me, is more dangerous and more tense than regular court, because you're dealing with families' lives.
Exactly, their children, their money, and we've had, you know, officers have had to walk folks to their vehicles because of the, you know, the seriousness of the case, and it's not good sometimes.
Right. Well,
it's scary.
But yet you still stayed and stayed.
I stayed. I guess I loved it. I
Right.
mean, you know, I worked in there 20 years before I ever ran for clerk of court, and now I'm in my 8th year as clerk. So
Right.
you got to love it.
Oh,
you got to love it to stay that long.
And you have to do a lot of reading, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
You got to love reading.
And we get a lot of emails and orders from the Chief Justice. And when those emails and orders come through, you have to read them, because you never know what you have to do.
Well,
and then I have to pass that along to my staff who helped me, which I got to brag on them. They're wonderful. They helped me a lot.
oh, well, you know, that's just like anyone that's got staff or employees. It's how you treat your employees is how your business is going to run.
Exactly.
I see that a lot, even in bigger corporations.
Oh, yes.
If you got staff that stay in a good while, I know sometimes you have rotation of it because you know, just that's the person. You can't control the person.
No, but we've had a lot of issues with a big overturn because of the salaries. You know, when I
Right.
first took office, the staff told me in 2017 that it had been 7 years since they had a raise. Well, from my understanding, you know, the county was in a financial crunch at
Right.
that time, but now the past few years, 3 or 4 years, they have been given better raises, little bump ups, and and hopefully we'll be able to see a change because it takes a long time to learn those positions, and then I have to cross train. Well, if you can't keep them long enough to learn the position they were hired for, then it's hard to cross train. So, but we've struggled, but you know, we're making it. It's been good.
So it takes away, actually, when you go to cross-training things, that it really takes away from your job that you have to do.
Yes.
And also, it just bogs down things. It backs
yes,
things down.
Yes, because I try to move from department to department, and my staff will tell you I'm hands-on. I'm there. They have questions. I'm there with them. Our general sessions court, sometimes we have to stay 7, 8 o'clock or after at night after court. You have to get that work processed and ready for the next day. If you don't, you get behind.
So
and we already have a heavy workload.
It's not like sometimes not an 8 to 5 job, is it?
No, and weekends and nights. I get calls all the time or messages through messengers, or I have to go out because the fire alarm's gone off or the security alarm's gone off, you know. So I'm 24-hour clerk of court, not just Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Well, and that's, people just don't realize that an elected official is almost on duty 24 hours a day.
It is.
I know that we meet a lot of times, and this is a small community,
Yes.
It's a big county, but a lot of small
Yes.
amount of people. And sometimes it's hard to eat without someone coming up and want to know a question or want to know something. Says, well, do I supposed to go to court then? And I mean, like you're supposed to know, you know, 6 months down the road.
Yeah. Well, and I tell them, you know, call me or text me in the morning and I'll check the docket. Or if it's a juror, they'll text me, I forgot to call the number. What do I do? I'll tell you, call Monday after 6, you know. When
Right.
this case, we got General Sessions Court this week, so they call tomorrow, Tuesday after 6. So, yeah. And you don't mind because I knew what it was when I took this job on because
Right.
I had worked in there so long.
Now, you worked in the office for, I believe, what you said, 20 years, just in the
Before I
office
ran.
before you ran. Now, in 20 years, you probably know about everything in that office.
Well, I don't know. We still get things going on every week coming in that we've never handled before. But, I mean, it's been there. It's just that it didn't affect our county, and more we're seeing things.
Right. Well, it's
Changes,
changes
yes.
about every day, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Now, after working 20 years with that, what made you decide that I want to run for the office of the county clerk?
Well, my husband, he passed away in 2012, and that was the first, well, in 2011 was the first time I ran, but he had a stroke in 2001, and I knew that his health was continuing to decline, so I'm like, the last 3 to 4 years that he lived, he didn't work much, so I needed, hey, I know this job, I need a job that's going to support he and I both.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons.
Yeah. And I know there's other reasons that you've probably seen some things that you probably said, you know what, I believe I can make this better if I was...
I did. I knew from working within some of the things, just like I wanted to digitize the old deeds that were on microfilm. And it cost a lot, so we had to do it year to year. when I first took over, I think the clerk was only getting like $1,500 a month for deed preservation. Well, we're bound by law that we have to preserve the records.
Right.
So I asked council, and they graciously increased it, you know. So we're doing that.
Now,
And you have to do it year to year.
well, you know yourself, the microfiche is what they use. Those are not things that last forever.
No, we have some that we still have to pull out if folks go online and look at it. It's not a real good copy.
Right.
I mean, they fade over the years. They fade.
Well, it's just like the VHS tapes. People think, well, I'll store them and be in a dark box like that, but it still deteriorates. It comes off because it's not like digital.
Right. That's correct.
Because when I used to video and stuff, I had the great big old 3/4 inch tape with the big dinosaur cameras, which mine's kind of dinosaur now, but it's big, and batteries that run all of it wrapped around you.
Yes.
And they didn't last long, but now it's smaller, it's digitized, and it keeps longer. So you had probably 100 years of microfiche?
Oh my gosh, our deed books date back to 1785. So they're going now, since all of the deeds that are on microfilm are digitized and uploaded online. We're going backwards to bump up to that year. So their COT system, who is processing that for me, they have 40 of the deed books. They've already in the grantor and grantee books, which tells you who bought it or who sold it.
Right.
They're on, if you go on my county webpage, they're at the bottom, and they're supposed to be loading them up online, but you do have access to look at them there.
Okay. Question for you, speaking of deeds, is that, you know, we have so much scammers, squatters, and probably not this much in this area as I know of yet, different ones like that, that sometimes they will make try to get a copy of a deed
or do a false deed.
Right.
I implemented the property check, which if you go on my webpage, you can connect to it. And if you sign up using your name, ever how you've ever signed your name, and you enter your email or if you want to receive a text or both, then if a document is filed in my office using your name, you will receive an alert, and that way you can come in or contact the office, and that would be whether they filed a fake deed or a fake mortgage.
Right. And then they do that just to gain money, and next thing you know, they're coming to repossess your house because
and
they're not going to pay it.
You didn't know anything about it, but the reason I did
That is great that you've done it, because I didn't know that this office was doing
we
that.
haven't had any, but the lower part of the state, they've seen an increase in it.
Right.
And other...
Well, it's only time, you know,
in
yourself.
other states too, and it's just a matter of time that they come, you know.
Well, Union's growing with the new housing development stuff like that, so we don't know what's coming in or
well, our real estate side, because I'm the Register of Deeds clerk too, it's increased a lot because of the new subdivision across from Walmart.
Right.
And I mean, because as that property is sold, you know, it's more filing and recording in my office.
Yeah. Now, tell us again, or let people know again how they can access, or how they can, do they have to come to your office to sign up for?
No, if they need help, they can come in and we can assist them, but they can go on my webpage, you know, the record hub is what it's called, and at the bottom on the left, you can go into it, but like I say, I had a person come in and I helped them.
Okay.
You know, we can help them.
Well, that's good, because I know the banks do this now, that you can sign, you know, if there's some kind of fraudulent alert, they'll send you a text or send you something like that. And I think that's great, and I didn't know that you had that, and that's a big plus.
Yes.
Because even though hopefully nobody ever uses it, you know, it has to be done, but we know that chances are very high.
You never know.
Never know, because you got other areas, and they said, well, let's go up to Union. They don't have nothing like that.
Well, we
but
do.
You do.
We might be a small town, but I try, you know, federally mandated child support system and the CMS, which is the court management system for general sessions and common pleas. That's mandated. We can't do any changes, you know, only
Right.
what the state, the court
Allows you to do it.
administration, judicial branch gives us. But the deeds department, I have improved and tried to run with it and make it the best that we can have, you know.
Well, that's to me that's a big improvement there.
Yes.
Now, tell everyone everything that your office has to handle. I know most people think clerk of court. Well, she only handles the courts.
No, well, let me see if I can think of everything. Well, you know, in the deeds department, not only is it the properties and mortgages, it's also power of attorneys, you know, so the miscellaneous filings. But now, like I say, we do child support. We enforce, you know, I'm responsible for enforcing and putting on the child support orders. And then there's the family court side where the cases are initiated as far as divorces, adoptions, abuse and neglect.
Right.
For the abuse and neglect, I have to sign the orders for the guardian ad litems. I have to appoint, my office is responsible for appointing attorneys for the abuse and neglect, whether it be children or vulnerable adults.
Okay, let me ask you this: Who appoints the guardian ad litem? Does the judge, or how does someone say, hey,
It's
you know
the
what?
state. The state has a guardian ad litem program.
Okay.
And that's been in place for years. But before that, back when I was running the first time, before the first time I had to do it, we had certain counties that we had certain people. But now, thank goodness, the guardian ad litem program has been a very wonderful asset.
Right, and I know that you know, some people ask, you know, that they would like to be that, and so they can probably come to your office and ask for the information on the forms, or do they have to go through another agency?
They would need to reach out to the state guardian ad litem program.
Oh, okay.
And also foster care. You know, we're always needing foster parents.
Well, did you handle that too? I mean, far as
No, but I try to speak and help, you know, people, you know, and get them in touch with the right people. But, and I have the information at my office who they can contact if they're interested. But
Right.
we need that because we have a lot of children that's in foster care.
Yeah. Well, you got some that I know that I was reading. I need to get them on my show to get more detailed into being a
Yes.
foster parent, or being even a I don't know. You might clear me up on this. Someone, an emergency family. You know, where they need someone
Yes.
not long time, but just to keep overnight or the weekend or
Right.
something.
I can remember back when I worked for the sheriff, they brought in, it was like, and this was because I rotated shifts, you know, 12-hour shifts for a month on daytime and 12-hour at night. And it was nighttime, and they brought in like 6 children.
Wow.
And we, you know, we helped the officers take care of the children so they could get DSS and the other ones in there to, it was a sad situation.
Yeah.
You see a lot. And all that's filed in my office, in my family court office, and it's a lot.
Now, in the family court, do you have to physically be in the
Well, we
courtroom,
do
or one
on
of your staff members, or?
Yes, on rule to show cause day, that's failing to pay child support.
Right.
And if they have bench warrants, you know, they may have, if they have folks locked up on the bench warrant, they try to have it the day of the rules. But sometimes, and which is on Tuesdays normally, and sometimes you have to go up there throughout the week. Now, my family court deputy clerk and another family court clerk, they go, but I have had to work in there. And you got to realize that was a part of my job all those years. That's what I done, and that's how I can step in and assist them if one's out sick or one, you know, has a death or a family emergency or whatever. So.
Now, say if someone's bought some property or pay cash for it, they come in and have you search for them. I think you search to make sure it's clear. I think they have an attorney or something that, or does the attorney come to y'all to do a title search? Or?
Yes, they come in my office, and I think some of them go back many years.
Okay.
I think when they're doing like a search for a judgment,
Right.
They because those judgments are filed in our office
The
too.
judgments come to your office too,
Yes.
don't they?
They go back. I think the attorneys go back 40 years, or they may go back more. I'm not sure. But I think I remember hearing Sammy Domodouris tell us one time he searches back 40 years.
Right. Now, and how important is it for people to do a title search and not just take it upon it that it's going to be?
I think it's very important.
Have you seen anything that maybe drew up a red flag or something that because they didn't do this?
Well, it could be. I mean, it could be like the property was sold on the courthouse steps, or
right.
You know, on delinquent tax. We had a situation one time where the delinquent tax had them up for the property sale, and then. But it's very important, and I say that because it's important to file the deeds. A lot of people, or some, I'm not going to say a lot, some folks haven't filed deeds, and when...
Wow.
Yes, and they find out later they should have filed it. So if they buy that property or have bought that property and they come in to, didn't file it and they do come to file it, we have to take it, you know. And it's easier for them to do a search. Like if people pass away and they go through probate, and you have 5 and 6, 7 and 8 children. This was years ago. We had a gentleman come in, and I felt really bad for him. He was an older gentleman, and his parents had passed away, and they never did file the deed of distribution and separate the properties like they should have, which then he had to get an attorney, and it probably was costly. I mean,
wow.
But yeah, it's very important to file those deeds.
Now, when people make out wills, does that come through your office?
No, that goes through the probate judge.
Okay.
Yeah, that's filed in the probate judge. People call us a lot or come in there, said that wills were recorded or kept in our office years ago, but as far as I know, we never have kept them.
Right, so they have to, if they want to know a will or something like that. And my understanding from, I had Domodouris, the attorney, on my show, and he was telling me that that a copy of a will is not valid.
No, it has to be the original, and I know that from where I've had family members that I've had to handle their estate. It has to be an original,
right,
or they won't accept it.
Yeah, and because we was asking about that, you know, so somebody come to your office and get a copy, he says, no, so even our copy is not. He says what the original is. Got
to have the original, so you really need to give it to somebody you trust, you know.
Right. And, well, you know yourself that sometimes when you pass away, you might have the goldenest family in the world, but sometimes greed sets in and has some things going that way. Now, you're talking about the courthouse steps of selling the property. Is this something that you're there also?
I go out there. I go with two of my staff members because I like to be involved and know we have to keep up with who purchased the property. That's foreclosures. And yes, we go out there and we have to keep up with how much it sold for and who bought it.
Right. Now, some people's not too clear on, I'm going to walk here a second, just keep talking.
Okay.
Some people, it's not very clear on when you sell something on the courthouse steps that when you sell it, that, well, you're going to get it dirt cheap, or you're going to, they'll buy it and say, well, you really don't own it yet. What?
I think you're thinking about delinquent tax, like where they purchase the property, and I think it's a year. The previous owner has maybe a year to claim it, but that's something you probably need to talk to the delinquent tax collector about.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the ones on ours is foreclosures, and they don't always get it dirt cheap because sometimes there's a good bit of money owed, and they try to start it, you know, and get
pretty
as
high.
much as they can.
Right.
Yeah, because there's, you know, if not, they take a loss.
So yeah, that's probably what I was thinking about the delinquent tax things,
yes.
like it, because I see them in the paper.
Yes,
Is that something that you also list?
No, that's the delinquent tax.
Okay. Now, when we see sometimes, and you might know this and might not, I might need to have them on here too, talk about, is that when you see a delinquent tax, say here's a couple acres property, 3 acres, whatever, and a delinquent tax, and they owe $1,000, is that person, when they bid on it and they say if they got it just to pay the taxes off $1,000, is that it, or do they look at a market value?
You better ask the delinquent tax. I know a little bit, just because you know our offices are connected.
Right.
They go over, like when our deeds are filed. It's a process. It takes a couple of weeks to get your original deed back, because it goes to the Jake Black, the tax assessor.
Oh, okay.
It goes to him, and they do whatever they have to do and change addresses and update their records, and then the delinquent tax collector, she goes through it. And
that's what I need.
Yeah.
I need to get them on the show
Yes.
to tell people about a little bit more detail,
Yes,
stuff like
yes.
that. Because I find it interesting, and a lot of times people don't know, and they assume, and that's horrible to assume.
no, it's better to
To know, isn't
to
it?
know, yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. But I can tell you about general sessions. I can tell you about common pleas and family court and child support and land records. But that other's not my specialty.
Well, let's go to general session, because I've been in, not as on the other side of the law, but been in there when general sessions end as a juror,
Yes.
and a couple things that way, and most of the time I've seen you there.
Yes, I try to be in there every time. Sometimes if my child support needs me, or my
Right.
main office, I'll have to get up and leave. Wherever I'm needed. I mean, I have to. In common pleas court, same thing. Sometimes I have to send a deputy clerk because I can't be there, but I try to be there as much as I can. In fact, one of the attorneys told me, he came from out of town. He said some of the clerks don't work in the courtroom. He said, but I noticed you've been in there every day. I'm like, well, that's my job. That's
Right.
what I was elected to do. But now there are days that I can't make it. I think the only time I missed an entire week was I was in regional and ICU with pneumonia from COVID.
Oh,
And that
you couldn't be there?
No, it stressed me out because, I mean, it's a heavy workload.
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't believe the warrants that it's nothing for, we receive warrants, general sessions warrants from the city PD, and like this past week, Tom brought in 3 stacks.
Wow.
They transmit up to us from the magistrate's court. That's the ones that the sheriff's office serve and arrest on, and that's general sessions.
So the warrant comes through your office first.
Yes. No, they go through the magistrate's court or city police, and we also get warrants from Jonesville PD. But if they are if it's general sessions charges, then they transmit them to us.
Okay, and you file those.
We file them, and then we have them ready for when they go to court.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you're
they
bringing-
attach them to the indictments, and once it goes to court, it's the process,
Right.
But it's nothing to get 60, 70 warrants at one time, and that's a lot of entry and a lot of work.
Now, do you keep up with the court calendar?
The state judicial branch issues the court calendar,
Okay.
and we have to mark it because there's some weeks or months that we have family court 2 to 3 weeks out of a month, and it's increased. That gives us 1 week for general sessions, and then common pleas. And we have had our judges, if we have a short common pleas week, they ask for extra days for general sessions to help take care of those cases.
Define the difference between common pleas
Okay,
versus
common pleas, yeah.
general session.
All right, general sessions is criminal court where you go, you get in trouble for
drugs
drugs,
or whatever,
murder. Common pleas is civil court where they file lawsuits.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's when you kept saying that, I was trying to figure out, let's see, common pleas, is that someone just pleading out?
And then judgments are also filed in common pleas court. If somebody has a judgment. If they owe more than, I think it's $7,750, I think it's, don't quote me on that, but it's filed in my office.
Okay, and speaking of that right there, we go back to scammers again. That I have them come call to my house. Okay, you're going to be arrested tomorrow if you don't pay this right here because we got this that you owe this amount of money, but if you go ahead and pay it to reduce plans, so
That happens.
We'll not do that. But it's we've already filed it, and it's in your and I'm thinking, yeah, I know it's not so.
We don't call people just like General Sessions Court, and we summons the jurors. We've had people call and say they received a phone call, and because they were issued a jury summons and they didn't show up, and they're gonna have to pay a certain amount of money, or they're going to jail. No, that's a scam. We don't do that. Trust me, if you didn't show up and the judge wanted to, he would have an officer that day go pick you up.
You know it.
Yes.
And plus,
yes.
you would know it if you got one.
Yes. Most of them have me call. You know, we'll call and ask, you know, what happened.
Right.
You know, and then a lot of times we transfer. He'll say we'll transfer them to another term.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you won't get a phone call. If anything, an officer would pick you up, but that hasn't happened in a long time because the judges, they know how busy people are, especially a lot of these folks that work out of town.
Right.
And it's hard to come from Charlotte or Greer or Columbia.
Yeah. Well, I know in the judgment, going back to the judgment part, where people's filing against it, where you don't pay something, I know that they really prey on that a lot. Because my understanding is, if you owe a debt and you didn't pay it, so far I haven't seen anything that said, well, if you don't pay a debt, you're going to be arrested.
As far as I know, I think it just makes you have bad credit. I've never.
That's it.
But I think the sheriff and those, if you file papers and take the execution part down to the sheriff, I think he can go out, and if you have property that's sellable or whatever, but that's a sheriff question too.
Right.
That I think possibly they could sell to pay off, you know, to take care of that.
Well, it seems like they have to go to court on that to even get that done, as far as the debtor goes like that, because they can't garnish your wages. I know that because it's not, they don't do that.
The only thing I know garnishing wages is child support, and I think, what is it, state and federal tax? I think they can garnish your wages on that.
And I think student loans.
Oh, really? I didn't see.
I believe so.
I didn't know that. So
because that's part of the federal government.
Yeah.
You know, but I was just curious about that part of it because you know you got so many scammers out here nowadays that's using the court system and the clerk's office as a means to scare someone. For instance, you know, you got someone that's telling you got your grandchild that's locked up, and you got to pay this to get them out and give us the money right here. If someone called me and tell me my grandchild I want to know why. And to me, if it got locked up for something stupid, then I tell you what, you keep them overnight.
Well, that's bad.
It is bad. I know it is.
Well, sometimes you feel like saying that, and sometimes tough love is hard. But you know, it might take that. But we have juvenile cases that are filed in my office. And I feel like if someone receives a call like that, you don't know if it's a scam. If they say, okay, send this money here, the best thing for them to do would be call the solicitor's office.
Right.
Because they prosecute those juvenile cases. So, yeah, it would be best to call them, and they could let that parent, you know. Because, you know, juveniles are like abuse and neglect, and adoptions, they're confidential.
Right. So they're not
and we're not
give any
allowed
out.
Unless you are a party, and then you have to prove, you know, you have to show ID.
Well, and I'm really shocked, and I've seen people, even in Union County, that's happened to, that they've given, knew of this lady that was sending close to $10,000 in cash to Nigeria. And she said that was her boyfriend. He's a doctor. And he's going to be coming over, but she's never seen him before. All this was on a line thing, and
it's terrible.
Tried to tell, but she just wouldn't listen. But you know, it's like that. Like nobody don't know what to trust or not, and the best thing is to communicate.
Call my office, yeah. And if we can't assist you, we can pretty much tell you who you need to contact.
Who do you go see?
Yes.
Well, you're working in the government, in the county government and stuff, so you know all these people. Who's the right one, from the supervisor to the county council, if you need a certain council member, and they're always glad to talk to you.
Oh, yes, yes. They've been very helpful to my office over the years.
Right, and so you
In fact, we depend on them. You want them to know as much as possible about your office because they are the ones that make the decision
Right.
on what we get, and you know, so.
Like, I've seen them vote on it, and I've seen them ask any elected officials here say something.
Yeah, they'll ask questions which they don't understand. I want them to know. I want them to ask. I want them to know. You know.
Yeah. And you helped me out one time in getting my camera in the courtroom.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
And this procedure that they go by, and you told me all the procedures. You gave me the forms to
you
fill
have to
out.
fill it out. Media has to fill out the paperwork,
and
the judge has to approve it.
Has to approve it, and he's not obligated to approve it.
No.
But I spent that whole day during that particular trial date.
So you didn't come the rest of the week? I don't know why. I thought you were there for a couple of days.
Well, in that form, it said I had to pick out a certain
day,
criminal case.
Oh, okay. It was one case. It was
one
a certain
case.
Yeah.
And if I say, okay, they got several cases, then I'd have to put each case because he would look at it each differently.
Yes.
But he signed off on this, and it happened to be a drug case, and it lasted all day, and they had the jury trial there, and the judge was excellent to me as far as being in there because I really read the rules that you gave me, that what I can do and what I can't do.
Right.
And I know I couldn't have wireless microphones because it would pick up anything that shouldn't be said. I had to position the cameras certain ways. If the plaintiff did not want his face showed or her face showed, then I couldn't show that. But it went good, and at the very end of it, he says, well, did you expect what the verdict to hear? And I said, actually, I did. He said, really? I said, yes.
Well, sometimes it's hard to tell. You don't know which way. You might think, okay, they're gonna find them not guilty, or they're gonna find them. You don't ever know which way it's gonna go.
Right.
What you might think, you know.
I bet you'd be tough on a murder mystery.
Who, me?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
I wouldn't want to bet against you. I mean,
I don't know. But yeah, it's hard. You know, you never know which way the jurors are gonna go.
Right.
Because each person interprets the evidence differently. You know.
Yeah.
So.
And
what I might think, okay, they're gonna find them guilty, is not the case.
So you really get to see some really great cases that goes through there.
Yeah, but we see some heartbreaking cases when children have to testify.
Yeah.
Now that's really hard.
You have to build the wall up a little bit there.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Oh yeah. That's really hard to see children that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and then they're testifying and they're crying, and it's heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean,
have you watched and been in the courtroom with some cases that really blew you away, that went a total opposite way that you thought it was going to do?
Oh yeah, we have.
And to me, that would be, I could sit in the courtroom, and now it does get boring, I know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they have interest in evidence. It keeps your curiosity up.
Right.
You know, it keeps it going. So.
And yeah, I could think. I love watching. Perry Mason's was one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, I used to watch that. And what was the other one? Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
I loved Murder, She Wrote.
And you gotta, and to me, and I've got pretty good at it. My wife will tell you this too, that I can pretty well tell who done it.
Oh yeah.
And even with shows coming on, I can tell her different things because I work with videos and stuff like that, and there's certain stuff that I see, and I got pretty good at it.
That's good. But I don't know if I'd have gotten that good at it. Sometimes I think who it was and it wasn't the right one.
I think you would be great at it because even though you're sitting there, but you're hearing all these processes, and you're hearing the attorneys, the district attorney's office, the solicitor's office. You're hearing both sides. That's weighing out. This one's trying to keep this one out of jail. This one's trying to put this one in jail, and the reasoning why. To me, that is fascinating because
it is, and sometimes you get kind of like you thought the solicitor done an excellent job, and all that evidence was there, and then they find them not guilty, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, and imagine how the deputies feel. They work so hard on those cases.
and the deputies to go out and they see right then, and they're right there on the scene, and they got suspicions, but you know yourself sometimes looking at something that's not always what it seems to be.
No, and they gather all the evidence and it's presented in court, and they work hard, and then that happens. It's got to be very disappointing. I mean,
it definitely has to be.
That you ought to get one of those deputies on here. They probably tell you how frustrated they get.
Yeah, well, Sheriff Bailey did.
He did?
Yeah, how it's really frustrating. And I think a lot of frustration comes from the backlog. It's taken so much time to get the criminal in there to be tried. And, of course, that's out of your office's way. That, like you said, they schedule all this stuff for you.
Well, now we're doing the General Sessions docket. Chief Justice did an order for us to start producing the docket, and it's a lot involved. We prepare it, and it's prepared by several reports, and then it's sent to the judge, and then we send it also to the solicitor, and they make any changes, and then they send it back to us, and then we have to, and we've just been doing that a year.
Okay.
We haven't, the master docket, we're receiving training, we're still in training process on the regular, but the master docket is a docket of the overall cases. We haven't even learned how to do that. We're about to go for training, and I don't know if they're going to come here or we're going to have to go to Columbia. I think maybe they'll do it while we're in the courtroom, the electronic sentencing sheet, which, you know, when we're in the courtroom, we're having to enter the information, the sentence, and then we have to fill out the fine part. And I think, you know, I don't know how that's going to go, but we're about, I don't know when, they didn't give me a start date, but we're one of 3 counties that are going to start off with it, which my staff's glad. They don't, you know, they would rather be in that training and doing the original learning, and instead of sitting back anticipating when's it coming, you know. They like to go ahead and get on board and be the one of the and they're like I said, one of the 3 counties that are going to be a pilot county is what they call it.
I know beforehand you didn't really know what the docket's going to be, who's going to be on it.
Well, no, we know it now, but you still, I mean, the solicitor may change their mind. They may, they'll have the docket, and they may bring somebody from off the street or bring somebody else from the jail that decides they want to go ahead and plea.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering about that. If, say, if you know someone that wanted to know, you know, so wait a minute, or say a victim even want to call and say, hey, is this coming up in
well, they let them know in plenty of time, the victims, I'm pretty sure. But like I say, if it's like maybe a drug case and they just want to go ahead and plead guilty, or, you know, they'll bring them off the street or from the jail if they reach out to them. But it's subject to change. You don't ever know. Just like we may have a hearing schedule, and at the last minute, we'll have the jurors coming in, all lined up, had them selected, and they may decide to plead guilty. And that's a lot involved, having to summons those jurors and get them in there and get them qualified and select and have them seated. And we've had it happen to where they would go halfway through the case and decide, okay, I want to plead guilty. I guess they thought it wasn't going their way. I don't know.
Yeah, their attorney probably told them, said, you know what, you need to go ahead and do a plea. And
but that costs the county a lot of money when we you know, get those jurors in there. It's nothing to $2,000 a day. I mean, if for that one day, because we summons about 300, and then, you know, of course, you take the ones off for disability or 65 or older, or some are law enforcement that can't serve. Right. But, you know, it takes a lot to get them in there. I mean, just to, I can't even remember what the price is just to get them summoned through the mail.
Well, I know that when I was summoned, I kind of liked it because, especially if I didn't had to call in for the evening or that morning each time and didn't have to go, it almost gave me time to do stuff around the house.
Oh yeah, because sometimes they might make you report at 9. Sometimes it might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't ever know. Right. But we start General Sessions Court tomorrow, so We had today as the holiday, but it'll be a short week for us. But we'll probably go through Friday because we missed today.
To make up for it.
Yeah, they're trying to take care of a lot of the cases.
Now, so are you going to be moving over to the new building, or are you going to be staying?
No, it'll be a judicial branch. The ones that's not court related. And you know, my family court and child support are down in the old bank building across from beside Family Dollar, kind of like across from the university. So they'll be coming back to the courthouse, thank goodness, because that's a lot. You might not think so, and it's just 3 or 4 blocks down the street, but it is a lot when I have this office up here, and then I might have to go down there 3 or 4 times a day, depending on what's going on.
Right.
And then, of course, I have the bailiffs. The bailiffs work under me.
That's right.
So
that way, when they move out from there to go across the street, there used to be was it South Bank used to be there, right across the street from the courthouse.
In front of it.
So when they move their offices over there, so they possibly
then I can bring my family court back to the courthouse.
Well, that's good.
We went down there in 2008 because we ran out of space. The family court had grown so much,
right?
And we had to hire 2 extra people. Council allowed us to hire 2 extra people back then, so that made 4 of us in there because I was the family court deputy clerk.
Now, do you elected officials? Do you do the swearing in?
I do. I swear in the sheriff and the other elected officials. Now, some in the past have chosen a family member to swear them in, and that's fine.
Okay.
But I think
I was wondering about that because I've seen one that I think did that.
Yeah.
And
but most of them I swear in. I swear in the council members, and we do a lot. A lot of folks don't realize, and I tell them to come in there and let us show you what all we do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of filing going on in all 3 courts.
I know when you and I talked shortly like that, you tell me all these things right here. So, whoa, all that, you know?
It is.
Now, I know, was you in the courtroom when Susan Smith was?
I wasn't in the courtroom, but I was there. That was what year was that? 90. They had her trial in 94.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked in the clerk's office.
Okay.
Because I had a lady reach out to me last week from a news company that she's wanting to come.
Was it A&E?
I can't remember the name of the company. She's wanting to come and take shots of the courtroom and all around the courthouse, and I had to give her a couple of weeks that we weren't having any court.
Right. So, well, I know A&E was doing a program. I think they contacted Mayor Thompson too.
Yeah. I let her know that it was 2 different weeks. I think in July because we are booked every week until.
Right. I know she's coming up. I think it's either September or November.
Yes.
For parole, which I don't.
And you know what's interesting? Back then, a life sentence was 30. You had to serve at least 30 years plus 1 day. Right. And now it's changed. I'm not sure when it changed, but, you know, life means life now.
Okay, because I thought to say, you know, to me, I always thought, and I finally realized that it's no longer so, that a life sentence, I mean, that's the rest of your life there. There's no...
But then, back then, they said life meant 30 years plus 1 day. Had to be that 1 day.
Wow.
So.
Well, that had been 60 years is double.
I know.
Well, I know that a lot of people were curious about, you know, her coming up for parole, and I know, you know too, that first time parole, most likely you're not going to get it.
Yeah, sometimes they don't get it.
Yeah, but I know some media floating around here. A&E was one of them.
I can't remember who it was that reached out to me, but I emailed her back and let her know the weeks that we had available. Right. Because like I say, we're having family court anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 weeks a month, and that's a lot on my staff because they're having to check each case before it goes up to the judge. Everything has to be, you know, you got to make sure everything is there.
Is in the family court? Have you seen it over? Let me please over me over to the years that we're having more and more family court sessions because we have more and more kids that's maybe having some issues or family problems, or are we seeing is this a big increase that you're seeing?
I think right now, from this time last year, the juvenile cases are like 9% increase, and the domestic relations cases as such, adoptions, divorces, visitation contempts, or whatever, it's at 11% this increase as far as this time last year. So it is increase. It's nothing to have 40 juveniles in court, which that's a long day for the judge.
That is. That's long, and I'm just and I need to talk with Sheriff Bailey about why is this? What is going on with our kids nowadays?
Well, we at one point our criminal cases last year increased to 2022 open cases, criminal cases, and most of that's drugs. But if you read my article, my re-election announcement, we had, I think it was 7 or 8, I'm not really sure, up there in jail for murder, and 11 for attempted murder.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a huge increase.
Now,
but it's not just Union; it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
I talked to the other clerks, and one clerk where they had been holding around 700 cases, they've gotten a lot more.
Wow. Does DSS are they mostly involved to I know some of them like murder and stuff like that, but is DSS seeing a increase that brings these parents or brings into the courtroom? Or are you seeing a more increase in that way?
Yes, because the criminal cases, they affect family court. You know.
Right.
They affect the families. I mean, and that 11% as of now is including the DSS abuse and neglect cases. And it's just not children, it's vulnerable adults also.
Right.
So
yeah, I always forget about that part.
It's mainly children.
Right.
But there, you know, there are some vulnerable adults. Okay.
Now, I know that we're getting ready to run out of time here in about 5 minutes, but in that 5 minutes, tell me, you're up for re-election coming up and in November, and that's why people hadn't seen your signs out. It's because it's not a little bit too early to put them out, right?
There's no right way or wrong way to campaign, I don't think. A lot of folks tell me, wait till August to to put them out. Now, if some folks want them, I've given them to them.
Right.
But they say you really need, because of the primary. I'm not part of the primary. Right. And maybe they say that because they don't want to confuse people, you know.
And that's probably what most people confuse. Well,
yeah.
The person's going to run because we're coming up and got.
Well, I've been asked. I mean, I put it, I did run it in the paper. But yes, I'm up for re-election. I'm in my 8th year as clerk, 28 years altogether, and I'm hoping if I get back in there one more term, and it'll put me to where I feel comfortable to retire. Right. I can, Now,
what are some of your platforms that you're looking going forward in this next term?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I have moved the deeds department as far as I can, as much as I can, continue to increase, digitize the deeds till the books now, because all on microfilm. We have been adding current plats online. That wasn't being done. We started doing that in 2018. I want to go back and digitize and upload the old plats. We've got 3 or 4 drawers full of the old plats. So that, after I finish with the deeds, then I'll be moving on with the plats. But as far as the court system, I can't do any updates. I just have to promise to keep issuing the bench warrants and the rules to show cause. And that's another thing that's hard on my family court staff and child support. They have to every month run a list and keep looking and checking the ones to see if they're paying. And if they're not paying, then that's, you know,
Generates another.
a lot of times the computer will generate it, but we have noticed this past year a lot of those are not on that list. So that's why I've gotten them to run that list every month and try to, you know, find the ones that didn't rule in.
Right. So
But yeah,
y'all have a lot of paperwork and a lot of repetition, so that you're having to go back and continuously
It is.
to
You're
check.
continuously checking that family court and child support. You know, the solicitor generates a list for us as far as who I need to issue the bench warrant on
Right.
for the General Sessions Court. But we, like I said, just trying to keep people and keep staff, and, you know, hopefully we'll get to where when we had a Miss Iris, a Miss Hope, a Miss Francis, a Miss Sandra, and a Miss Cindy that were there for years. You don't have that now.
Right.
And because these young people, they have families to support. We've got single moms. They can't live, but the county's doing good.
Right.
They're giving us the raises and the bump ups, but I want them to realize, hey, if you stay there till you retire, you'll have a nice
Great
retirement
benefit.
check.
Exactly.
We have benefits. You know, they have insurance. They have sick time. They have vacation time. And they accrue so many hours a month, and the longer you're there, the more you accrue, where you don't get that at some of these companies.
No, the benefits there to me is a lot better than most of all the companies, really.
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies has downsized some of their benefits and
Yeah,
stuff.
and fortunately, I had a husband that made pretty good money, so I could stay.
Right.
If it hadn't been for him, I probably couldn't have. I probably couldn't have stayed. Yeah. You know, but
Well, Melanie, we getting to the
well,
hour mark there. I told you to go by quick.
I know
And
it did go by. I appreciate you having me, but and maybe, you know, closer to the election, I can.
Come back and
Yeah, because
and
there's
see how
still a
things
lot
going.
of stuff that we didn't get to discuss as far as the day-to-day operations
Right.
that I have to oversee.
And it's hard to get all those packed into 1 hour.
Oh yes, yeah,
So,
it is.
I'll be glad to
It is.
have you back. And
Well, I appreciate it.
I enjoy it because it's very informative, because a lot of things I didn't know you brought to my attention today, and I hope to be informed to everybody else that they know how to contact you and get a hold
yeah.
of you. And you're always there. I know where you're at, and even running across to you in the field out here.
Oh yes, yes. Well, I appreciate it, and I hope.
And I know you get your exercise, because that's like 3 floors. You constantly run up
I
and
know,
down.
and I hate the elevator. I get on it sometimes, but most of the time I'm up and down those stairs. So
Yeah, get exercise.
it is. But I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank
you're welcome.
you.
Well, thank you for coming. Well, I'm Jerry McKee, and thank you for watching. And like I said, we got Melanie Lawson here, the clerk of court. Now you know a little bit more. And if you didn't know anything and you want questions, give her a call. And we will see you next Monday. And I'm Jerry McKee, and we'll let you know who's going to be the guest.